Hi everybody, welcome back to Deep Space. My name is Ben. I am a licensed clinical professional counselor. This is Deep Space. This is a place where we talk about things from the world of mental health, psychology, things that matter, things that go on within the deep within us and around us. So today we're going to be talking about something that is on everybody's hearts, on everybody's mind. We're going to be talking about Las Vegas. What we're going to be talking about doesn't just apply to this tragedy, but all of them. We're going to be talking less about, I've seen a lot of videos about how to, people's take on it, how to make sense of it, what people think of it, and I don't know that I have a lot to add to that, maybe a different video at some point, but more of what I wanted to talk about is just if there's anything, or if there's a side of this that I can be helpful with, if I can help you through it. I've got a sort of a metaphor for understanding our sort of responsibilities, how we work our way through this, how we apply ourselves to stuff like this that's just heartbreaking and really hurts, and how we get through it. So this is probably, if any of my clients are watching and you want to talk about Vegas, this is a lot of what we'll talk about. For a lot of you, this will probably sound pretty familiar because it is, I find it to be really helpful. So the metaphor isn't mine. It's from a guy named Dan Siegel. Dr. Siegel has written some really cool stuff. He's written a book called Mindsight. It's probably my favorite, but he's talking about the way that the mind and the body come together to regulate ourselves, and how it works through how that relationship creates our behaviors, and sort of how that all comes together to make us who we are, and then how we can use that understanding to help with things like this, because this is really, really heavy and it's really, really brutal. If you're like me, it's been kind of overwhelming in a way that is sometimes disorienting. It's tough to know how to get through it. It sort of changes how we feel about the world. It changes how we feel in life in a way that can feel really messy and hard to make sense of. So how do we get through stuff like that? So he uses this metaphor. He calls it I think he calls it like the river of life metaphor, something to do with a river. I can't remember exactly what he calls it, but basically, the idea is that in situations like these, in life in general, when life gives us stuff, our job is to sort of move through it, to continue to progress, to move forward. Moving forward is like the process of development. It's growth. It's moving forward to where we're stronger for the experience, we're better for it, that we've grown somehow through it, that it's done what it's intended to do. That stuff like this has a purpose in our overall development as humans, that there's sort of a channel that it's intended to go, that when we go through that channel, it works itself out and the experience moves through us to where it's supposed to go. So that's being in the river, right? We're kind of the sailboat. We're riding through these really powerful experiences, and life is throwing stuff at us, and we're trying to stay in the river. We're trying to keep moving forward through it and keep growing and keep expanding as humans. But the banks of the river are pretty compelling, and we can crash on either one, right? And once we crash on a bank, we stop moving. We stop moving forward. We stop growing. We stall. We're sort of stuck. And life, stuff like this, stuff like what happened in Vegas, a tragedy of this magnitude can get us stuck pretty easily to where we're not moving forward. So the banks, each bank, it's important what the banks are, right? One bank is the bank of rigidity, right? On that bank, nothing moves. I think of it sort of like, when I picture it in my mind, that bank is frozen. Everything's frozen. It's stuck. It's not moving. And so the rigidity bank is like, for our emotion, for experiences like these, it often looks like, I'm not going to let myself feel this. I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to let myself be moved by it. If I am moved by it, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to express it. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to try to have this is not happening. This is not happening right now. I'm going to get rigid. I'm not going to move, and I'm not going to let it go anywhere. On the other bank, on the flip side, is the bank of chaos. On this bank, everything is moving. I think of it kind of on fire. Frozen on rigidity, on fire on chaos. I'm feeling everything. I don't have any sense of direction or any sense of purpose in the emotion. I don't know where it goes. I don't know what to do with it. I don't have any. I'm losing control to it. and it's just blowing me all over the place, right? Stuff like this can really inspire both. We all have a different tendency towards one bank or the other, right? And sometimes we bounce back and forth. Stay rigid, stay rigid, stay rigid. I'm not going to feel it. I'm not going to feel it. I'm not going to feel it until I can't. And then we pop over into chaos. It's just like I'm overwhelmed, and I just flip my lid, and I can't handle it anymore, and it blows everything up. So in a situation like this one, in a tragedy like this, I can see both of them in myself. I can see it in the people I talk to. I can see it in the world around us. The rigidity side of this are those of us who would like to pretend like these things aren't happening. This is the side that says things like, maybe not literally says it, but kind of subconsciously thinks, it didn't happen to me. That it's almost like this is somebody else's stuff. This is didn't happen in my world, so I'm not really moved by it. I don't really think about it. I'm trying not to picture what this is like for everybody else. I just kind of skip it and stay like really rigid. I don't let myself be moved by it. I see that a lot in myself with at times when I hear about awful things in the world that just feel so overwhelming. I just kind of feel like I'm not going to do it. I can't. It's just mean. It's too powerful. And so I'll sometimes get rigid. The hard part about it is that if my rigidity gets broken through, if I get overwhelmed, like Lord help us, if I'm trying to go rigid with something and something else goes wrong and puts me over the top, and then all of a sudden I got all of it and I get launched over into chaos where I can't. It's like I'm having emotion about this thing that's not even related, and the emotion about this horrible, dark, evil thing with so much pain from Vegas gets taken out on my car breaking down or whatever, or on my kids when they're annoying, and I don't know why I'm like overreacting. It's because I'm chaotic and my emotion's not really going where it's intended to go, and I'm crashed on that bank. You can see on either bank, you're not moving forward. When you're not facing this thing, you're not getting your way through the emotion of it. When you're staying rigid and you're letting yourself be moved, where are you going? Nothing's happening. You're stuck there at that point in your development related to this stuff. You don't go any further than you let yourself face the reality of what's happening in the world and in ourselves and in our lives. On the same token, on the flip side, if I'm in chaos, I'm not moving forward either. It's like all that emotion is just blowing me all over the place. It's not doing any good. It's not helping me process. I'm not making sense of it. I'm taking out Vegas emotion on the people who cut me off in traffic. I'm taking out the Vegas emotion on myself for my insufficiencies, for my own stuff, things like that. That's not going anywhere either. So you can see how either one of these is possible, and how we fall into them. This is not just in this tragedy, but in life in general, how easy it is to get really rigid and just not face stuff, not think about it. But on the flip side, how compelling chaos can be, and how that when that emotion builds and it overwhelms and it overflows, and before we know it, we're breaking down from emotion we didn't even know that we had. So neither one of those is really helpful, right? How do we get into the river? How do we get into the river of movement forward, where we're able to process what happened, what this is, but we're able to be honest about the reality of it and how we feel about it and what it means to us, but we're able to do it in a controlled way. It's simple. We bring the two together. We take the best of rigidity. The best of rigidity is self-control. The best of rigidity is intention, right? It's just too much of it. It's too much. We're over-controlled. We're over-regulating. We're taking the experience and we're saying, I'm going to force it into a box, and I'm not going to let it do anything outside of that box. But the self-control in the first place, the ability to have intention, to set an intention and to maintain awareness and to maintain a sense of direction and self, that's really important, and that's all in the rigidity side. But on the flip side, the side of chaos, what's the good side of that? What is chaos offering us? Well, it's the feelings. It's the reality of the situation. Chaos is just too much of the feeling. It's too much of the, we think of it sometimes in my field like implicit, explicit. Implicit, just what is, the explicit, what we're choosing. The chaos is too much of what is. It's so much of what is that there's no intention about it. There's just all of the feeling, and the feeling is overwhelming. The feeling's going places we don't really want it to go, and that aren't productive and that aren't helpful. So what we do is we bring the two together with the best of the rigidity, which is the intention, and the reality and the best of the chaos, which is the reality of the emotion. So the truth is, I feel devastated by this. And here's what I'm going to do with that. Here's how I'm going to handle that. I'm going to face my feelings on purpose. I'm going to structure and intentionally choose to be real about how I feel. Right? So when tragedy hits, rather than burying our head in the sand and rigidly saying it's not happening, or being overwhelmed and losing ourselves to it, we feel how we feel about it with a sense of structure and control and self-discipline, self-intention about what we want to do with those feelings. So things like, I want to express how I feel. I choose to connect with another person who I know will understand and who will be there for me and who we can process together. I am going to allow this thing to be what it is. And when you get those two together and when you can combine them, you start to move forward. You start to move through the thing. You start to make sense of it. Then it's so much better this way. Then you can actually do what those emotions are intending to do in the first place, which is move you. Right? When stuff like this happens, we're not supposed to stay impassive and stay unmoved by it. And we're not supposed to just like skate through it. We're supposed to see this and say, there's something wrong here, right? There's a problem. This is not right. And it's supposed to move us to do something about it, right? So when we do it with both of these, we're able to pick the thing that is like us, and we get the energy from the emotion and then do it. Write your senator, right? Go vote. Go reach out to people who are mentally disabled and who go and support local mental health initiatives. Talk to the people in your world about their opinions about the elements of this that are changeable. Let this move you to action, whichever side of it is of the action. Obviously, there are opinions about how this is supposed to move toward what this is supposed to do. But if you can get into this space and you can get honest and you can get authentic, at least you're moving towards what you believe in. At least you're acting like yourself. And I have much more faith in people who are doing this to come to conclusions that are legitimately helpful and that can help us move through this stuff so that this stuff stops happening. Right? So that we don't keep running into these horrible, senseless, unnecessary tragedies, right? Where we can create a world together that has less of this because we're here, we're combining, we're intentionally moving through the experience as it actually is and as it actually moves us. We are being moved to action that we choose and that we believe in. I have so much more faith in that than people that are just like, this stuff freaks me out, it drives me crazy, and I don't know what to do with it, so I'm gonna lose control of myself. Or people that are like, didn't happen to me. People who just look at this like, I'd like to debate the ins and outs of government control of weapons, and I'd like to just talk about this from a strictly academic No, this matters like real human lives. There's real feeling in this. I don't want to hear just your simple opinions about what should happen based on your cold, stoic, unmoved lack of emotion because you can't feel this. But I'm also not interested in your crazy. I'm not interested in you're so overwhelmed by it that you're just going to fly off the handle and do whatever the chimp in you feels like doing. Bring them together so that you can make decisions about what you want to do with something as painful as this, something as brutal as this, something as intensely moving as this. What do you intend to do with it? How are you going to work your way through it? One of the most important things to do with that, yes, it moves us to action, but it also, I hope, and part of what I'm hoping to communicate to the people that I love through my counseling and through these videos and just through spending time with people in life, is let this also move you to self-care, to taking care of yourself and those that you love, recognizing that life is short, love is precious, our relationships. I didn't get any calls from anyone who said, hey dude, did you know who was in Vegas? I didn't have that happen, but I might on the next one. We all might. This one didn't get us, a lot of us, but the next one might. Love the people that you've got around you with everything that you've got while you have them. Feel it. What moves you, what matters to you on purpose, with structure, with intention. Bring them together, and we can move through this, and we can move through this together and create a culture that does that for each other, that does that with each other. And then from here, we can try to work on some solutions. We can try to work on things that are going to make a difference, make an actual difference, not just a difference in our heads, not just a difference on paper, right? So that's what we're all about here. That's what I believe in. If this is something that you're into, if you find these videos to be helpful, subscribe, share them with anybody that you think would be into this too. I really appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving me in making these. That has been so kind of you. I appreciate the love that you've shared with me. I feel it for you. Let's keep trying to do everything we can to bring these together. The reality of the situation, the reality of our emotions, the reality of what this does inside of us on purpose with structure and intention so that we can move forward down the river towards a better future for all of us. That's safer, that is more based on love and connection and less on this crazy stuff. Are you with me in that? All right, team. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being with me. More videos are coming, so hit subscribe and you will have, you'll get notified of that. And we'll go from there. Okay, peace and love. Love you guys. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.